Rey Skywalker.
I'm sure if you peruse social media for even 5 minutes, you will inevitably find some fanboy complaining about Star Wars and how Disney has ruined the beloved franchise.
Rey Skywalker.
Hell, even Colton and I have had discussions on our podcast about our own disappointment with how it's been handled. I've even thrown out ideas in which I believe Star Wars should implement to differentiate itself from the competition. Of course, who's going to listen to some random dude on the internet, though?
You suck!
Right? See, that's part of the problem. Fans nowadays have a larger sense of entitlement than they ever have. Is it the social media bang that is causing it? The lack of fear of being a keyboard warrior? Or simply individuals looking to obtain 5 seconds of fame by spouting out some nonsense?
No!
There's no denying that since Disney took over Lucasfilm and Star Wars back in 2012, that it hasn't gone the way people expected. A mediocre trilogy that, while it does have its loyal fans, feels very disconnected from what came before it. A hit-and-miss television slate that has its moments for sure, but hasn't helped bring fans together as one would hope. An expanded literary universe that is hardly talked about, and for good reason. And a theme park, well, a theme park that just doesn't live up to the Star Wars brand by many accounts. People want to blame Kathy Kennedy. They want to blame YouTubers like Star Wars Theory or Doomcock, but let's face it, we're all just looking for a reason on why we have been so let down. George Lucas was easily the scapegoat in 1999 and 2002, but today, there isn't any one clear person to point a finger at. The problems with Star Wars aren't going to be fixed by one thing, but rather a chain of events and changes that would lead to a far better experience in all facets of the franchise. Look, number one, Kathy Kennedy has to go. Not because I think she's failed or because I have some ridiculous vendetta against her like so many fans do. Rather, there are far better people suited to run a studio like Lucasfilm who would be able to allow certain creative minds control the beloved properties. Next up, I would shift focus back to the theatrical experience. 2019 was the last Star Wars film that we've seen, and by all accounts, we won't get our next one until late 2025 or even 2026. And if you ask me, that is just far too long. For Star Wars to stay relevant and exciting, there needs to be a focus on the event that it created in 1977. Even Disney had the right idea in 2014 during the build-up to The Force Awakens. They created months and months of hype and excitement, yet seemingly dropped all that in every film since. Why? The most controversial take I have is going to be about removing wokeness from the releases. But Robert, the story of Star Wars was always about... No, shut up. Star Wars, well, was diverse and based on overcoming the role of a tyrannical government. Today's woke agendas are not anything like that. See, you turn away and cause a divide with your fans when you push those mostly asinine ideals. The thing is, sometimes I believe that's the intent, though, to spark controversy. Next up would be quality over quantity. This seems like a no-brainer, but since the debut of Disney Plus and the streaming wars, content is being pushed out simply for content to be released. This isn't really how Star Wars should be. Unless you have a great concept, master the production, and have the creative team all on board. But this sort of leads me to my final point. Push the bar. The great thing about Star Wars was how George Lucas would push the limits of what could be done with film each and every movie. From the crazy practical special effects in the original trilogy to the reliance of green screen and computer special effects in the prequels. Everything George did with Star Wars was to advance technology to help the future of film. Disney Star Wars has hardly done that. Yeah, I know, virtual production along with the volume has absolutely been a game changer. The lack of pushing it further along, though, has been very noticeable since the first season of The Mandalorian when it was first introduced. I gotta say, I think with Big Papa Bob Iger back as CEO of Disney, I think the time for Lucasfilm and Star Wars to right the ship is now. How and when we will see those changes happen are not easy to predict.